Yeah, I'm like curious too, just because like you sent me those Reddit posts. I mean, those did pretty well, huh?
Yeah, yeah. I had about a week, 2 weeks of just, I don't know what it was. I was just hitting gold every time.
Yeah,
And yeah, I think all in all, it pulled in about 1,100 wish list in like
that's awesome.
a week or so. So ever since that, I've been chasing that high. You know, you hit that high and you go,
Yeah.
"Oh God, I've been chasing that." But it's been doing all right. It's much harder than I thought it was after I hit that gold. I hit gold and I was like, "Wow, this is easy. Why is everybody saying it's so hard to get to that 7,000 mark?"
Just out of curiosity, what are you sitting at wish list wise right now?
1,300, 1,400-ish.
Not bad.
But that's not without, yeah, that's really without doing much. I anticipate to
Right.
actually properly start once I've got a demo out, and then I might start approaching a couple of publishers, depending on how my mind is. I can't
Oh,
decide,
cool.
whether or not I want to publish with somebody or independently. So I've just been trying to work that out in my head. I think the game's not to sound big-headed. I think the game's quality enough to be able to be picked up by a publisher.
I think it's very publisher approachable.
Yes, I mean, it definitely is, considering how much it's come along graphically since its trailer. It's a completely different style, well, not style, it's a completely different graphical quality now that you can never feel that satisfied when you do something knowing it's going to get better in the future. It's always a bit of a, why am I putting this out now when it's going to be better down the line? But I put out the trailer and then all of a sudden I did all these graphical updates and I thought, oh, well, the trailer now looks worse than the game. I've just got to do another one. And I think I've got to do another one, get the demo ready, and then I probably approach some publishers.
Yeah, I've obviously all I've seen is the trailer, but from what I see on the trailer, man, it looks really good. And I was curious because like, it was really funny after you did that Reddit post. I saw like probably 30 copycat posts, like immediately after yours. It was like the same, literally almost verbatim the same thing. Like I sold my wife's house, the whole ordeal, and I'm just like, God damn! Like some of them did pretty good, but I was just like, I just found it so funny that it was like straight up copycat.
Yeah, no, marketing loves originality, and if you can be the first one, you can do well. But from off the back of that, I also had people, message me and come to me and say, "Look, I could see people copying you." I had some people say, do you want to come and work on our games bar? I'd love to, but no. It was nice to get that kind of recognition from people. I work in marketing professionally, so
Right.
I'd like to say it's what I know. I know what I'm doing, but I work in enterprise level tech marketing. This is a completely different kettle of fish. I mean, I've got some benefits, definitely. Constantly striving to make everything high quality is probably the number one thing that you can take over to indie marketing, because people don't like to see crap. They like to see indie stuff. They don't like to see crap. And so, when I started, I was doing all this marketing around like an unfinished demo and unfinished product, and it just wasn't working. It was only when it got looking good that people started to be, responsive to the market.
That's interesting because I feel that too, because it's like I obviously, like, as you more or less know, that like we're also making our own game and it is in a very unfinished state, but like we've put stuff out there that it just very much has been like no, not interested. And in a way it is very unfinished. Like we have a lot of unfinished stuff with it. But we did put some stuff that were in the more polished, more finished state. Sometimes you put stuff out there and you're like, oh, this is kind of more or less a throwaway. And then you put it out there and it goes absolutely viral and you're like, fuck, I didn't optimize this thing. I was just,
Yeah, two things on that. I think in the posts always do worse when you have the link, because it's obvious, and people don't like to know they're being marketed to. And when they do and when they know they're being marketed to, they need it to be interesting. So I wrote a whole kind of humorous write-up that also did quite well, actually, about how I posted. I got 1,000 wish lists off of my post. I did a short write-up on it, and the main thing I took away from it was that nobody actually cared about the content of the post. You know, the title's funny, but that gets you through the door. It's the content that is meant to capture. But on social media now, especially Reddit, the content doesn't capture. It's the engagement. I had comments on that post that, you know, got hundreds of upvotes and were shared more than the post itself.
Interesting.
So the way I look at it is, when I post something, I am there for every single comment that comes through the door, because it's the engagement on the post that makes people interested in me more than the game. Because, you know, if I'm posting a theme page or something like that, it's not that interesting. My game's interesting. I make it, so I think it's interesting, but it's not interesting for 99% of the people. You know, there's so many genres, there's so many games, there's so much saturation. The games aren't interesting. It's the people posting it that are interesting.
Yeah. That's an interesting point, actually, because like that's one of the things I've kind of I come from the business world as too. I'd transitioned into here, and so like doing traditional business marketing and things like that, it's like one of the things you learn about is like people buy from people type of mentality. Like people want to know the story behind the person. They want to know who they're buying this thing, especially in an indie environment. In an indie environment, I feel like it's even more important, because in a AAA, you know, you have the brand is essentially the person. It's, oh, this is the publisher, the big distributor and stuff like that. But in indie, it's like you could put up, no offense, you put After Image Studios, but nobody like more or less knows After Image Studios, or even likewise my company. But then you put your personality and your person, you know, who you are out there, and then people get more related to who you are and actually interested in what you're making.
Yeah, people love people more than they love products. And that's the benefit of indie nowadays, is that social media makes it so easy to attach your product to your personality. And it's almost, I mean, I work solo, so I develop solo. So it's even better, because I don't have to blend a brand around multiple people. The brand is me. I am the brand. If people don't like me and I make a post that rubs them the wrong way, they're never going to look at the brand again. But, you know, if you have multiple people, you can spread that weight. You know, you could say, oh, that's the opinion of one person on the team. It's not representative. Yeah, you can a lot of get out of jail free codes. You don't have that as a solo developer, but it's also a big benefit. People, you know, people don't follow the Twitter account of companies, really. But people do like to follow the Twitter accounts of developers and creators and artists and everything like that. So I think it's a real benefit to be solo if you can engage your own personality. I mean, I tried it with my own YouTube marketing. I didn't realize how difficult YouTube was until I started. You know, I still do it passively, about one post a month, but, you know, climbing to that 1,000 subscriber mark was quite difficult and very intensive. And I realized that I was so focused on making a video that I wasn't focused on being myself, and these weren't interesting. So I think that you know, if you can put yourself forward in marketing, especially indie marketing, it's going to do much better than putting your game forward in a lot of cases. Unless it's, you know, the most beautiful thing anyone's ever seen, those do well regardless. But most of us aren't clever enough or innovative enough to come up with something as beautiful as, I don't know. My mind always goes to, do you remember when Journey released?
Journey
game probably came out a decade ago. It's like the original kind of walking sim games.
Oh, I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
It's hell shaded-esque, stylized, and it only did well because it was beautiful. And I don't think most indies can capture that lightning in a bottle. We can make pretty things, but we can't. You know, that's a kind of once in a 5-year thing, and that would take off regardless of, you know, that would take off beautifully on social media. But we can't all make that, so we've got to focus more on ourselves.
Yeah. No, I mean, I agree with that. And also just thinking as far as like the differences between like marketing and like traditional, like in business and things like that, compared to like indie, one of the things that like just kind of I've been taken at, it's just interesting in the different dynamic between the two, which is in business, it's like, you know, you put out a piece of marketing, unless it's like, unless you're trying to just grow brand awareness. But usually when you're putting out a piece of marketing, it's trying to get some sort of actionable item. It's like, put this out, click on this thing to get onto my list. So then you get the free to go down basically your top end funnel. You're building your funnel. And in game marketing, the thing that's I'm kind of realizing, which is like you're putting stuff out there just to kind of, you obviously want the action, the click to the wish list, etc. You want that. But like you just said before, like if somebody feels like they're essentially being sold to, putting a piece of marketing out there and they're trying to sell them on your thing, at least the consumers are just very much turned off. They're like, get it out of here. I don't want to be sold to. So in a way, you're trying to put stuff out there that they consume and share and hopefully get some sort of virality to it so that way that way you do eventually get that sort of, wish list, explosion. But it's like, it's different because for me, like I said, it's very mechanical on the business side. It's, input to output. In this, it's like you're putting stuff out there that hopefully people, the community enjoys and likes and shares and goes viral. And then you get the outputs.
Yeah. I think that my mind can't work it out fully. Because the kind of people that love indie games, they love the indiness of them. That's why they like them. They don't love them because their content is more, polished or innovative than AAA games. Sometimes it is. They love indie games because it feels like somebody has made them. But then they feel turned away when that somebody is trying to market it.
Yeah.
And my mind still can't fully comprehend that. And people are very quick to dismiss marketing as marketing, especially when it comes from AAA studios. I just didn't think it would filter down so much as it does to indies. It's surprising to me that people are, probably because of the volume, making game becomes so much more accessible. The volume of marketing has increased so much that their spaces that were previously small, niche, and compact have now been exploded into huge 100,000 developers trying to market their game, their crap, their shovelware, and their slop. You can understand why they turn off from it, but
right,
it's from a marketer's point of view, it doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. I agree as well with like you trying to wrap your mind around it because it's so confusing. Like because I'm, obviously this show was a form of marketing for myself, the whole conception of it, but it's also, it was, I think, how do I put this? It was my way of trying to sell somebody something without selling somebody something. And so the whole conception of the show was like, oh, I'll talk to other indie devs and then they'll find out, who I am and they'll find out who they are. They'll hopefully the people that I have on the show, because I think their projects are cool. Well, they'll get wish lists and they'll go down the rabbit hole. And I think it's just the journey of how people consume information and media. Like I was telling this to my other devs, which was like, when I find a game or something that I want to play, it's 90% of the time, it's not from the original source. It's not from the developer or the person that made the game or whatever it is. It's usually I saw some video of somebody playing the game or something like that. I thought it looked interesting. Then I go and find out who made the game or find out more. Then I go to the Steam page. I find out more about it. And then that's like the journey of how I find things. And so I was like, I needed to kind of like thinking about, marketing in general. I was like, how do I reverse engineer that a little bit? How do I make something that's not me selling somebody something or telling them, hey, go, step right up. Like in sales, they call it, there's like peddlers and there's consultants, peddlers like step right up, buy my thing. And the consultant's like, well, I'm not sure if I can help you, but let's find out. Let's go down the journey together and see if it's something that, makes sense for both of us to participate in. And that's kind of like the idea of why I started this thing was like, maybe I can come in a more approachable way and have some different flavored content so that somebody might be interested on who I am. And back to what we were just saying, people buy from people in a way, and hopefully they'll kind of fall down that rabbit hole. And likewise, the other main objective is the people that I have on the show, hopefully they explode. But going back to YouTube, it is freaking hard. Like, I don't know. The YouTube algo has, I don't know what they did to it, but I don't like it.
When I started and I wasn't trying, I put out probably 6 or 7 devlogs, and they each comfortably sat between 3 and 10,000 views. And I was happy with them. And I didn't have a Steam page, really. The game looked like shit. I had no idea what I was doing. But they were doing well. And the last 2 videos I've made, I've put quite a lot of time and effort into them. You know, they are by far, apart from the trailer, the best things on the channel, and they have done the worst of anything. And I can't wrap my head around it. And I do it because it's marketing, but I do it because it's fun. If it wasn't fun to me, I wouldn't do it. So I'm gonna still keep trying, but it just doesn't. I can't square that. I can't square the circle. And I think when it comes to indie, the deck is stacked. And we're all convinced that indie marketing can be easily successful because we see other people do it. But when I've seen people find success online, I've found people with Reddit posts of, 10,000, here's my game. And I thought, I've seen this before. And I remember seeing one of them on LinkedIn. And I thought, why would this guy post about his game on LinkedIn? And I had a look, and I found it online. Oh, it's not LinkedIn, it's somebody posting about him. And then I had a bit of a deep dive, and I was like, okay, well, that's a PR contract. And a bit of a deeper dive, and I priced it up. And I was like, okay, all of a sudden this indie who sat next to everybody else is paying £6,000 a month for a PR contract. And we convince ourselves as indies that that's achievable. But it's not achievable without that budget. So I think a lot of it comes from our own misconception of what success could be for a no or low budget indie developer.
That's really interesting, because I think there was an article, I've said this before, but there was an article not too long ago that came out about AAA and marketing. And one of the things that they were finding out was just they were spending millions, obviously, on their big AAAs, and millions upon millions on marketing. And then they were finding that the return that they were getting from the spend on marketing wasn't translating into sales, wishlist, whatever their internal metric was. And I think it's generally the landscape of the way people consume content. And one of the things I think, in an old school way of thinking about it, it's almost like people need a referral in a way. When I think of, when I think of a referral, or just the general sense of it, it's like, oh, do you have a guy that can paint my house? Oh, yeah. You talk to your buddy. Well, you trust your buddy. You trust that person. So they'll give you the person that they got painted their house. And then that's, old school way of thinking referral. And then the new way for marketing, or just indie game marketing, I think of it with the content creators. Well, a content creator played that game, and I saw that they enjoyed that game. So then I'll probably enjoy that game if they enjoyed that game. So it's almost like this reverse way of looking at a referral from a content creator's perspective. And I think that that's kind of the paradigm that I guess AAA is trying to figure out. They're like, we've spent all this money on ads and putting it on IGN and all the big publishing magazines and all this stuff, but it's just not working, because more people just trust the streamer that they're watching. And unless that streamer plays the game, they're not going to play it.
I mean, a lot of that comes from, I did a lot of research on publishers when I decided I was going to consider publishing with somebody. And in everything I looked at, because I don't need funding for the development, maybe end of the line, just to push it over the line a bit. But predominantly, I would only partner with the publisher for their expertise and for their marketing budget, because it's the most important part of the game, in my. And I think that when I was looking at it, these publishers, they don't nickel and dime pay-per-click ad spend to try and get a wish list per click, or a purchase per click, because these publishers don't make their money off of a game that needs to be nickel and dime. If you've got to pay £1 of extensive PPC to get one sale back, it's profitable. These studios don't want something that's just profitable. They're looking for the game that perform, are evergreen, and that they explode. I think that games they don't sit in this like kind of linear graph of they do good, better, best. They do all right, or they do gangbusters. Video games, there's very little middle ground for video games. I think that publishers and in turn marketing agencies, they're not looking for this little return on click. They're looking for the game that can be the next big thing.
Yeah. That actually sounds a lot like almost like how venture capitals almost operate. Like they're just putting their money everywhere and they're just waiting for the one that, 400x's. You know what I mean? They're just
You see VCs everywhere in indie funding. I'm not sure how anybody finds VCs, but I've had people contact me already saying, "Do you want me to, for a fee, obviously, I will put you in contact with VCs. I will help you find a VC for your game." I don't want it because they're predominantly looking for a game that will do gangbusters rather than somebody's first project. And then when I had a look at a couple of VCs that do indie publishing, and they do that, who's a great fit for us? There were just seas of red flags. There was, crypto, NFT, the kind of things that VCs know will make millions. So what's it called? Live service, free to play, live service, battle pass model. That's what they're looking for because they're looking for the games that will make billions, not the games that will make hundreds of thousands.
Yes. Yeah. But but there's those outliers out there like Schedule One. I think they're a one-time payment, you know what I mean, to play their game. And obviously that went absolutely ballistic. Or even like Vampire Survivor, $3.99 for their game, and that's gone freaking absolutely bananas. But that's interesting. Yeah, no, that's definitely how it feels with publishers. Is like they're looking for the one that's going to explode them.
I mean, it's a lot of money to put into something untested. I assume that. So I've not been through any of the process yet, but I assume it's very much you need to go in with a following rather than you go in with nothing and they build you a following. They want proof. And first-time devs, I can't imagine, are going to have much hope there without something spectacular. And most first-time devs, myself included, are clever enough to make something spectacular on their first try.
Yeah. So I'm curious too. So like one of the things that you've brought up, which is AI, using AI in games, and I've very much taken the stance. I'm very neutral on the subject. I think there's a lot of benefits, and obviously you coming from business world, and likewise as well, the business world immediately consumed AI. The second it came out, and they're like, "Oh my god, this can write copy for us. This can make images or whatever things for us. Whatever it could do, it could video edit. It could do all these different things." The business world immediately was like, how much can we use of AI to make us more efficient? And then on the flip side, because making a game is also multiple faceted. It's not just making a piece of creative art. It's also a business as well. It has to be able to support you in some form or another, but it's interesting in games how, what's the word? How aggressively hated it can be.
It's not chalk and cheese, it's just chalk.
What's that?
I don't know if you got that phrase, chalk and cheese. It's like complete. No, it's like it's good or it's bad. There's no good or bad. It's just bad. It's agreed. The internet has agreed. They all got together in a room that I can only imagine smelled very bad, and they said that this AI generated art and AI generated content in games is bad, and there's nothing anybody will ever do to dissuade that opinion.
Right. Yeah, no, that is 100% how it feels. And I think I've said this a couple other times, but it's like I think it's only a matter of time, and eventually it'll become more expected in the development process, especially with indie games. And it's a tool that lets, for instance, solo devs be able to compete with other developers that have full teams in a way that they never would have been able to before. And I think people, I think one of the big things that I think shocked people was just the leap from where we are to where AI is, and that just that gap, that leap that they had to take was so scary to them that it was like it was, I don't remember if it was you or somebody else, but somebody told me about this, you know, technology, something with like the spools or something like that in, I think it was in Germany actually, where like the technology from them hand making stuff to when using a new piece of technology that made it more efficient, it scared them and they thought they were going to lose all their jobs, so they burned all these like these spool making things. And it's like that's kind of the where I feel like they are. The only difference is they have no, these people on the internet have no power except professional complainers.
I mean, they do have power. They've got the power of community, which is very strong, you know,
Yeah, I suppose.
especially
Yeah,
when we're
that's right.
talking about,
You're right.
when we're talking about marketing, you know, if I'm marketing a game online and it's got some AI elements on it, doesn't matter how good it is, it's not got a chance. So they do have a lot of power when that is the main marketing outlet of indies is social media. I think that the idea of being so viscerally hated, I'd like to think that it will tame over time. But you've got to understand that the people, they have a visceral reaction to it because for a lot of them, it's their job. It's their jobs on the line. It's game designers' jobs on the line. It's Foley artists' jobs on the line. You know, I can understand why they have such a visceral and aggressive reaction to it. I do this. If somebody came along and told me tomorrow we're getting rid of, you know, your job, first of all, I'd say great, I can do something else. Second of all, I'd say, oh crap, I got to pay the mortgage. You know,
Yeah.
and that's what these people see. They don't see AI content in a video game. They see their mortgage. They see their kids. You know, I can understand. I don't agree with it, but I understand it.
Yeah. But it's I and you're right, I don't agree with them either, because if you look at like something interesting like in the States, and I'm not sure if it was like this in the UK, but like early on when self-driving was kind of starting to murmur and they were talking about the truckers losing all their jobs, you know? And that was one of the things, they're like truckering, being a trucker is not going to be a thing. And obviously there was a lot of uproar with the truckers and all this stuff. And I'm like, I feel like the same people that are worried about their job now because of what AI is doing were probably also the same people that were telling truckers to go code. And I'm like, that's my big my big like this kind of like irks me a little bit is just like, look, you guys were so probably for truckers losing their jobs, but then you didn't realize that the knives were coming at you much faster than the truckers. And now all of a sudden you want to throw your arms up in the air and say, wait a second, no AI. My perspective also is like, I feel AI generally makes people more, I mean, for a lot of things, makes what you're trying to do more efficient. Like, yeah, do you really need to, like, let's say you're a concept artist, let's say you hire an artist to make you whatever. Do you really need to be a concept hand drawing like 16 different iterations of a concept? Is that really like a good use of your time or a good use of somebody's money? And so I think you can be more efficient with that with AI to get a rough concept out.
Can, but when we're talking about indies and I'm fighting the other corner that I'm sat in, I'm jumping over there and putting on the blue gloves. There is less beauty and efficiency than there is in taking time to do something. And when we come to indie developers making games, like we said earlier, they want a personal connection. And I think people feel like AI severs that personal connection. What I would say is that you're not going to have personal connection to my artwork because my artwork is shit. My artwork's bad. You might have a bit more of a happy reaction to some artwork that is actually good, regardless of whether or not it's been made by drawn by my hand. I think that I can understand that element of it in indie development more than anything else because people buy a personal product, people buy a personal something that's been made with love and affection, and people think it taints that. You know, if 90% of my game is made with love and affection, but I put 10% of the content that's made by AI, does it completely Does it make the 10%? Does it make the 90% irrelevant? No, I don't think it does. But lots of people will dismiss it because they won't believe that either I care that much or that the 90% has been made by me. I guess, it's that analogy of if you found a worm in your spaghetti, you're not going to take it out and keep eating through the spaghetti. Right. You're going to assume the whole bowl is tainted. It's the idea that one bad apple spoils the bunch. I think that's a lot of people's reaction to it, which is quite unfortunate.
That is, that's a good point. No, 100% a good point. How do you, one of the other things I said, I just feel like over time it's going to be more expected. Like AI, I think the times of, what am I trying to say here? I guess the movement of like innovation and new things, it eventually just happens. Like you kind of can't really stop it. Like what's the alternative? I guess legislating it away, like pretending like it doesn't exist. And then eventually you just become inferior as a society because other people are going to use it regardless, whether you like it or not. And so but I totally get the personal touch of it. It's like, do you want somebody, especially like you just said, an indie, do you want somebody that feel like they actually cared about the thing that they made and put it forward? Or do you want some soulless robot trying to feed you something? And
if it takes me 2 years, and I expect it will take me 2 years and tens of thousands of hours to make my game and make it how I want it to be. Why would the addition of some AI generated content invalidate that? It doesn't. Right. In my mind, it doesn't. I don't understand why people do, but I empathize with them. I think when you look at, so I work in the work I do kind of large scale tech. So AI is everywhere in my work, and you see the efficiencies it's brought, like you mentioned, but you see how much companies have gone in on AI. It's all you hear about. That's not going away. It may be a bubble, we don't know, but it's not going away to a degree where it'll disappear forever and we'll never have it. It's Pandora's box and it's out. And people will either hate it forever or accept it eventually. But I can't think of any historical example where people have hated it forever.
Yeah. It eventually just wins.
Yeah, people, there's all those pictures of people reading the newspaper on the bus. It's like, this newspapers have taken away our socialization in public places. And then, it's the same with mobile phones, and it's the same. There's always something else for people to hate, and eventually it becomes normalized, and that's what will eventually happen with AI. It's just we are probably quite a few years away from it.
Yeah. Your alternative in America, and your alternative is to become Amish, which is, I don't know. So if you don't want any of it, you can always just go live with the Amish. And
I think that actually appeals to me a lot more in the modern way of living. I'd love to go and live off grid.
Yeah, sometimes you go like, man, I just want to detach and disappear. Sometimes.
Yeah. I just. Every year I take a long trip up to Scotland. I go,
cool.
Go into the wilderness for about a week, come out filthy and primal, and I feel like it makes everything else I do much better when I realize what the alternative is.
Yes,
I just took that break about a month ago. I came back and I was just so much more ready for development again after taking some time away from social media and actually having the opportunity to take a break from the game, actually.
Yeah. It's, you come back with a clear set of eyes, and like, one of the things too that happens is like, you look at your project, you're like, why did I make that look like that? It looks like shit. That's happened to me so many times where you go to weigh and you come back and you look at something, you're just like, holy crap, this is bad. This looks terrible. And you have to basically redo it. It's a good thing and a bad thing, but like, that's happened to me more times than I can count.
For me, I was playtesting my game and I was not having fun. And I was like, no, I know this means my game is bad. This means my game is crap. I'm playtesting it and I'm not having fun. And I went away. I spent a week away. I came back and I play tested it, and all of a sudden I was having fun again.
Mm.
And I was like, was I not having fun because it was bad, or was I not having fun because I've play tested the same section of my game 1,000 times, tweaking the minutiae, and I had become numb to it. So taking a break from the game, I came back, I did a playtest, and I was playtesting the audio mixing of abilities. And they weren't working right. And I was writing down little notes as I went as to what I had to change. And I realized quite quickly that I had playtested it for about an hour without stopping. And I'd stopped writing things. And I was like, okay, I am actually having fun with my game. My game is fun. I had just been desensitized to it for months and months of playtesting it, that this break has brought me back, and now I can see it. Can't see it from outside eyes, but I can see it more from outside eyes than I could if I had worked on it on Monday and playtested it on Tuesday.
Yeah, I guess I would call that refreshed eyes. Yeah, yeah, refreshed eyes. I'm just curious. So give me a little bit of just background with the game. Like, how did we come up with the idea? Obviously, your profession is marketing, and so how did that translate from from marketing into being like, I'm going to make a video game?
Great question with bad answer. I didn't think at all about it. I couldn't code 2 years ago. I went to university to study computing 10 years ago, decade ago, and I dropped out after a year. I can't do this. This is not for me. And I did marketing. I said, what degree can any idiot get? Marketing. Perfect. So I went in, I did that, flew straight through, got a job in marketing, and I did it. And I still played games on the side, played a lot of games on the side, played too many games on the side of my job and my personal life. And then I realized that a lot of the time that I was playing games, I was wasting. I was playing the same game I'd played 50 times. I was having a good time with my friends, but it was not how I wanted to spend my free time. I wanted to be. And it was exactly that time when I had started introducing ChatGPT into my workflow at work. So I was managing the team at the time, and I had introduced them to it, and I'd seen the efficiencies of it, and I showed it to one of our data analysts, and he goes, yeah, I'm writing all of my SQL with ChatGPT at the moment.
Oh, yeah.
And I went, you can do that? And he was like, yeah. I was like, okay. And a month before, I had downloaded Unity, tried to watch a tutorial on how to make a flag move around the map. Spent 2 hours doing it, uninstalled it, deleted it, hated it, couldn't do it. I went back and I said, I'm going to try this again, but instead of coding it myself off tutorials, I'm going to have the code written by AI. And I did, and it worked. And I thought, wow, this is cool. I wonder how far I can take this. And I just finished playing Slay the Spire, and it's got that lovely grid map of interconnected nodes. I thought, oh, can I make this? And I could. It took me a while, but I could. I thought, oh, this is fun. What can I do next? And I thought, oh, what's an easy type of game to make? Like a turn-based, like a grid-based 2D game. I'll make that. And so can I code this with AI? And I could. And I was like, this is really cool. And then it never stopped. So I ended up with this kind of Slay the Spire clone that was a 2D turn-based game. And I got about 5 months into making it, and I thought, this is actually surprisingly good for somebody who doesn't know how to code. And I thought, well, if it's good for somebody who doesn't know how to code now, and I started it 5 months ago, what's it going to be like in a year's time? There's no indication I want to stop. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to completely restart. And I'm going to restart with the intention of making a game rather than just playing around. And I did. I switched it from 2D to 3D, kept the core theme of kind of a roguelike tactical RPG. And all of a sudden, a year and a half down the line, I was writing code and I realized, oh, I'm not using all of the AI's code. I know what to do now. And I had tricked myself into learning how to code, essentially.
Oh, interesting.
I'm not brilliant, but I can definitely work my way through it. And I now work with developers in my professional career because I understand their code to a degree that's, workable as a product marketer. It's surprising how efficient learning to code was through AI.
Mm-hmm.
And
That's
so
crazy.
that's left me with a game. I had no intention of making a full-fledged game. It became something I got really, really attached.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting. So, and now I'm curious, as far as the assets and the art and everything that we're using in game, is this a combination of store or like bought, purchased assets from Unity? Did you hire someone to make some of it? And is some of it AI? Like where's the spread?
So I started entirely using store assets, and I was having a good time with it. I was posting some of the stuff, and I didn't have still have never had a single comment on my use of assets in the game, which I thought was going to be more of a sticking point. But obviously, the way I styled, I wrote a couple of my own shaders and whatnot to kind of make it a little bit less bland out of the box. But most of that original stage was done with store assets. And then I started thinking, oh, well, actually, I used to run a design team, and my degree was in marketing and design. I do a lot of design work. So I started implementing my own digital design and texturing into the game. I did a couple of bits of modeling, and I thought, I can't do this. This is too hard for me. So some of that started using AI, and then some of the iconography I started. And so now it's probably 80% store assets, 10% my work, and 10% AI.
That's cool. I mean, you can't, I mean, I don't know, I haven't seen too much of the marketplace, but I mean, it looks good. What's cool about it is it all looks like one piece. Sometimes when you see people buying AI, not AI, I'm sorry, buying store assets and AI, sometimes you get too much of a disconnect between everything. Like everything doesn't look like it fits. Like it's like, pixel rates or even just like colors and things like that. Everything looks like it doesn't work together. Where I commend you, like your stuff all looks, I mean, it looks like wow, to be honest with you. Looks
Meant
like
to,
World of
yeah.
Warcraft.
It's meant to, yeah. It's the main inspiration, actually.
Oh, that's funny. But yeah, it all looks cohesive. It all looks like everything was meant to be together, and it's cool that you use all those different things.
Yeah, mostly writing. So the environments actually, Unity has so many beautiful environment asset packs that you really don't need to do a lot to get them looking good. And I don't actually see a lot of them used very frequently. I obviously notice when other people would use the same ones I do, but I think that's such a developer's problem that no player will ever do that. It's getting the units in the game, the characters were so difficult to get blending into the style that I wrote my own shader for it with a bunch of tweaks and nods and tried to emulate the style of the environment. And now all of the characters and all of the objects use that same shader. So that's kind of how I tried to make it cohesive.
Nice. So what made you land on the gameplay style though? Like what was because it's a turn-based roguelike. Are you doing like the Holy Trinity, like tank DPS rogue type system or tank DPS healer type system within your
The one principle, the one principle I had on the actual gameplay was that I love MMOs, but every failed indie dev has a dream of making an MMO. This game is my MMO, but it's the development of an MMO character boiled down into 30 minutes rather than 30 days. Was the original idea. It's you unlock abilities, you gear up your character, you craft new stuff for them, you build up a team. It's in my mind, it was always heading towards a game where you kind of tried to put together like a raid party from an MMO condensed down into a roguelike. The actual combat system, like I said, I started with a 2D turn-based tactical game because I thought it'd be easy. I don't actually play that type of game very much at all. So I was the wrong person to try and build it, but I have really lent into it, played a lot of them since, and I love it. And so that's how that kind of came about.
That's cool. So what's our plan? All right, so right now we're looking at polishing up to get a demo out, right? Is that, and do we have a plan on when that's looking like it's going to come out? Do we have a plan on Next Fest? What does that look like?
So yeah, I think that at the moment, I'm actually really close to polishing my demo. I'm really, really close. The problem is I can never stop polishing. You know, I'm sure it's a universal indie problem. It's the same problem I've always had, you know, even professionally. I wait until something's done before I show anybody it. So I should probably be 2 weeks away from having an internal demo, but I'm probably a month away. I have a small Discord of people who have reached out to me or followed me from YouTube videos or Redis, and I'll probably let them play test it internally for first, create a fully fledged demo and get that onto the Steam page once I'm really happy with it. It will be the first half of the game is essentially, you know, I don't know if you played Slay the Spire, but it's the full tree, and I've got the first half of that will be the demo. The actual game itself's not far off behind that. I can't imagine it's 2 years away. I struggle to imagine it's 1 year away. So I actually think I'm getting worryingly close, and I've only kind of come to that realization over the past 2 weeks. I've only started to realize how finished and polished the game is quite recently. So yeah, I'm kind of hoping to get a demo internally in a couple of weeks and then publicly in about a month.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things I think everyone's trying to do, or at least with indie, is get that demo out to get those reviews, to get the more wish lists, to get all the things. And once we get that demo out, I mean, we've talked a lot about marketing, but is your plan to start reaching out to content creators and things like that to try and get, you know, exposure or more exposure on the game at that point? And do you have more or less a list of people that you're looking at, kind of reaching out to? Or
yeah, I've slowly cultivated a list. It's not very big, but I also, you know, again, without being pompous, I think it's the kind of game that would play well. It's got an addictive loop. It's got a short loop cycle. You know, you could play the demo through in 20 minutes, and each time you played it would be different. Quite graphically nice. So I'd like to think that once the demo's out, if it's good, I mean, I'm the only one who thinks it's good right now. It might be awful. Once the demo's out, I'd like to think that I could pick up a couple of streamers, but I think the majority of it's going to be from a more concerted effort on social media, and hopefully a bit more success on YouTube through just trying a bit hard. I'm not sure that's how the YouTube algorithm works.
I was just about to say, I'm like, I don't know if trying harder is the metric.
Whatever it is, you know, like I said, I've had videos before that have got, you know, 10,000 views. If I could get 10,000 views on a video of my own game, it would be phenomenal. I would be incredibly happy. I just need to refine what I was doing right then and recreate it. I think that's where a publisher comes in, to be honest. I think the game's good enough and professional enough to be able to find a publisher. Might be wrong, probably wrong. But I think that I could probably find a publisher who would be willing to fund and consult on the marketing. And that's what I would anticipate doing. I don't want to hit any of those big, you know, Next Fest goals until it is ready to go out the door.
Right.
I don't want to do a Next Fest until I know I'm ready to launch.
That's a good way of looking at it, for sure. Because I guess that's the metric of it, is like you go into Next Fest and then you basically launch the game, I guess, is what all the so-called experts say.
Yeah, I think that, you know, Next Fest will be Next Fest benefits people that come in with wish lists more than anyone else. And I think that's the core, you know. Like I said, I think I watched something last week, and it was talking about the Next Fest success barriers of how many wish lists you need to find success in a next fest, and it was around that 2,000 to 4,000 mark, I think. So I think if I can aim for 4,000 by that point, and then boost it up, hopefully the demo will help me get there, because I tend to launch the demo months before the next fest, so I can iterate on it and make sure it's perfect. Yeah, that's kind of my plan at the moment. Get the demo ready, work out why it's shit, fix it, market the game while I'm developing it towards the closing doors, and then use whatever marketing and wish lists I've got, kind of hit the last next fest hard, and then launch after that. Or find a publisher beforehand and have them tell me I'm doing it wrong, and have them do it instead.
That's I mean, one of the things about the secret sauce is just like finding where the pool of players are. Like, where are people? That's one of my biggest questions. Like, where are players looking? Where are the gamers looking? I was just talking to somebody that built a rather large audience, but they're all like game devs. Her entire audience was just other game devs. And her game came out and launched and all this stuff, and she had like 300 sales on the game that they launched. And she's like, the problem I found is that game devs are gamers. We play games, but we're not gamers. That's not all we do. And so it's like, we're not always out there looking for new games to play and willing to spend time and money on it, because we're building games usually, or I'm not sure. Maybe it's just also generationally. Now I'm older, that I don't have a lot of time to play games so much anymore either. But I think it's an interesting thing to think about, is like, where, I mean, well, you're in marketing, so you understand this. So it's like, where's my target audience? Where are they, and what are they looking at, or what are they consuming content? And how do I put my thing in front of them for them to want to consume? And I just, that's the one thing that I haven't quite figured out.
I think that the answer to that is principally the fact that Steam is the place that shows your game to the most relevant people. You know, the people that have found success, they found it through Steam. They've come there with some support, but it's in how Steam shows your game to people is where you will find your success, from what I've seen. So that's why I'm really focusing on perfecting the demo, so that Steam does your marketing for you. I think that's kind of the goal. You can draw people in as much as you want, but you're never going to have the gangbusters success of a next fest that goes well to actually reach players, because like you said, a lot of my marketing reaches devs, and they might not, they might wish this game to be supportive. They're probably not going to buy it. So I think that's my core focus, is to just build my product in a way that Steam can consume it, and then focus on the marketing that Steam wants.
Yeah. So, but then that makes me think, is like, so with the publisher, where are they finding that additional success? Like, because obviously Steam is closed off, but you can only, it's not like you can market into Steam. So it's just, you put your thing out there and Steam does its thing. So where are these publishers finding their secret sauce? Is it anyway, that's just a curious question that
I think that comes into that big picture, that gif of Mr. Krabs, and the answer is just money. It's money. It's like I said, I'm seeing indie devs with publishers who are spending £6,000 on a PR contract. Crazy. That gets you thousands and thousands, 10,000, and probably millions of impressions of your game, and the odds of probability mean that some people will click on your game, some people will watch it, and that's where you build an audience, not organically. It doesn't feel very indie. And I actually begrudge some indies that have publishers for that whole purpose. And I'd like to think I wouldn't end up doing it myself, but they're going to make more money than any of us, because they have sold their game to a publisher, and the publisher knows what to do with it.
Yeah. It doesn't feel so indie when you go with a publisher.
But I also don't think there's a definition on the word indie. We've not communally agreed what an indie is.
Right.
An indie, a technical term of indie is somebody publishing independently. Technically, anybody with a publisher is not indie, but they are. A 4-man studio with a publisher is still an indie studio. I'm unapologetically indie because I'm solo and I have no publisher and no one's ever played my game. You know, I'm not sure you can get much more indie than that.
Yeah.
But I think that we as a community have set the bar for indie too high. There are too many people who can claim to be indie who aren't. You know, there was a big Steam release a couple of months ago. I can't remember what it was. It was semi-similar to my game, but it was a pirate theme, Risen something. And it had been all over the indie subreddits. It had been getting loads of traction, and it had been everywhere indie that I follow. And I had a look, and it was a 25-man studio with a big publisher. And I thought, is that indie? You know,
Yeah.
is it or is it not? Because a AAA studio might have 1,000 people. So technically, 25 people is tiny compared to that. But we're not comparing. We're not comparing Terraria to GTA 6. You know.
Yeah. Well, in a way, I guess, you know, indie's now just become a marketing term.
It's a tag on Steam. It's a crap tag on Steam, but it's a tag on Steam that everybody can.
Yeah. And so in a way, it's like, you're right. The meaning of indie kind of, the community hasn't defined it. And so everyone's using it more or less as just a marketing term to say, yeah, I'm indie. Because that's where I feel like the momentum has shifted from AAA, has shifted into indie. So if you can claim you're indie, even if you're not really indie, you can claim it, people might have a better perception of your game or something like that.
I think that's it. I think it's we have and it's only gotten a lot worse over the past few months with the addition of $80 games, is that I'd like to think that the pushback from consumers will be away from AAA to indie games. You know, we see the failure of live service games like Concord that cost $300 million. You'd like to think that people are seeing those. They're not, you know, they're not small failures. They're huge AAA failures. What was the pirate game that happened a couple of months ago? That was the first quad A game, and it just flopped and it failed. Can't remember what it was.
Is it Sea of Thieves?
No, it's kind of like that. But you know, there are so many public failures of AAA games that the hatred of live service battle pass models. I'd like to think that more and more people will move to indie games, but what we've got to accept is that the vast majority of consumers, not the vast majority, but a large number of consumers of games are on consoles, and consoles are buyable. Steam's not buyable. Steam is a monopolistic saint. They are a benevolent dictator.
It's a great way of saying it.
The second they start taking money, and I don't think they will. I'd like to think they won't. The second they
Until Gabe dies.
Exactly.
Until Gabe dies or leaves, it is benevolent.
The second they start taking money, like Xbox and PlayStation do for you know, advertising and exclusives and everything, indies will have a home, and they will be. I'd like to think that they will be much more popular than AAA releases, whereas AAA releases get more expensive. And they're only getting more expensive because they can't control their scopes and their teams. How many people made Concord? Probably hundreds.
I mean, that's just the development team, though. If you consider the attorneys, you consider all of the business staff, the marketing, the admin. I mean, yeah, the development teams, yeah, probably at least 1,000, and then you add everything else on top of it. Yeah, it's massive.
I just can't imagine venture capitalists are going to continue to throw their money into AAA games. Why would you? All you see is failures. You see a couple of Fortnites, but you see a lot of failures. And indie dev is a low investment, high return if you can get it right.
Yeah. You know what's the interesting? You just brought up Fortnite, which I actually think is actually kind of interesting, because I don't think they knew what they had when they made it. I think they liked what they had, but I think in general when they made it, I think they were planning it to be that single player or co-op experience, and they're like, oh, this could also be a multiplayer thing, and then all of a sudden, you know,
it was a spin-off. It was a surprise. It was a surprise success. The same way PUBG was it was the inceptor of the battle royale genre. It was a mod for Arma 3.
I know that actually.
I believe it started as a mod for Arma 3 or Arma 2, and then it launched as a game and then became a genre, which was then created as an add-on for a third-person crappy tower defense game built by a publisher no one knew, and now Fortnite's worth $5 billion or whatever it's worth,
An insane amount of money. Absolutely insane. I mean, it sent Unreal to the stratosphere. That's for sure.
Well, we're lucky to see that hasn't sent them so far that they can buy their way past Steam. They've tried with the Unreal Store and all of that kind of stuff, but
yeah. Oh man, I was gonna go somewhere else with that, but then I forgot. I think we're just talking about in general, just talking about AAA. That was what I was gonna say. I wanted to bring up as far as like, the free live service type model. I think the community is it's an interesting paradigm because like I feel like free live service can still be done, but if you try to make it pay to win or over monetize, that's where it gets turned off. I think the community, at least from my perspective, I think the community is okay with a free to play game as long as it's like pure cosmetic and not overly monetized, not something aggressively monetized. And anyway, it's just something that's interesting that I think is I think free to play can still be a viable option, but it's just the problem is they've just overplayed their hand. It's just too much. They've done too much free. Too much or the free is not enough. You have to spend at some point in time is what they've tried to do.
Well, I'd say yes, but I don't think indies can pull it off. I think that the issue of pricing for indie games is incredibly difficult because you put it too low and people think you're making crap. You put it too high and people compare you to games made by 300 people. I don't think indie games can or should launch at a $0 price tag because people are just going to look at it and say, well, they didn't think it was good enough to pay for. I think that if indies tried free-to-play models with monetization, I'm not sure it would have the trust to be successful, regardless of how good it was. I couldn't tell you the last time I picked up a free product. I mean, maybe I'm a bit snobby with that. But when I see a product that's free and it's not been made by somebody with a track record, I dismiss it.
Interesting. Yeah. Well, now I'm rethinking our game. No, I'm kidding. Well, because we are doing, full disclosure, I'm planned to do a free subscription model. I think their trajectory or what we're thinking, we're in the boat. Like we don't need this to be a success right out the gate. We're building a lot with ours. So it's, I guess our philosophy was like, we want anybody to be able to play the game. But we also want to continue to make things for the game in perpetuity. That was our philosophy. It's like, we want to always be able to add and create new things for it. And a single paid license version of it. I guess our perspective is we just don't think there's enough to sell you up front. But if you can play the game, in a way where like, if you think of like League of Legends, it's like, it's the same game over and well, not so much anymore, but like early days, OG League of Legends, it was the same thing over and over again. You get in the game, you pick a character, you do the map, and then you return, pick a different character, buy a thing or whatever, and rinse and repeat. So we have the same kind of more or less game loop. And so we're like, well, I feel like if you're going to buy a game, you want to have like an experience, a single player experience. You want to have some multiplayer. You want to have all these different mechanisms to interact with the game. And so in our method, we're like, it's just a multiplayer. So you just go in to play the game multiplayer. But we also have a lot that we want to do with the game. So how do we make this make sense? I'm not going to charge you $10 up front, or even $5, $10 or $5 up front, because then if we just get that first wave and then nothing else in the future, then we basically capped ourselves.
The alternative is that you might get that first wave and nothing else in the future, and you haven't charged anything for it.
True.
And and one of Steam's bigger metrics isn't how many people, isn't the click-through rate of your game, isn't the sale rate of your game. It's how much your game makes.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen a lot of things on what key metrics of success are to get on the, discovery queues and whatnot in Steam. And it's not generally a volume of sales, it's a volume of revenue, because Steam is only going to give you space on their platform if you're making them money. So I think that there's another downside there to a free-to-play model, being that, you might lose out on that big element of Steam's free and really valuable marketing by not making them money.
Interesting. But then I guess, obviously Steam is the marketplace. I guess what you hope for is that there's a VAT or not VAT, I'm sorry, a slew of content creators that play your game, and all of a sudden a bunch of traffic gets directed towards your game.
I think that's the way that free-to-play games find their success, is in mass playability from streamers. I don't know enough about that angle of marketing to know how easy or hard it is.
Probably very hard. Probably on a difficulty level, it's probably very much on the difficult side of things, as far as he said, because I mean, especially with anybody with any sort of audience, you can send them your game and tell them to try and play it, but it's like, in a way, I don't know. This is the stuff I think about too. Like, it's interesting because you're in marketing, so it's like you try to think about, like, what are all the different things that a content creator is thinking about. Well, if they're going to play a game, then there has to be some sort of something in that game that's going to also make their content valuable. They're not going to just pick something up that's boring, that they can just, every episode or every video that they put out, they're selling, and they want the viewers so that then their show grows. So game has to have some sort of mechanism that is entertaining to view and watch, so that makes it profitable for them as well.
When I watched the live stream of your game after the last playtest, and I think that the competitiveness of it and the simplicity of the barriers to entry makes it quite pick upable, if that's a word. I think the idea of a free-to-play game has to be very accessible very quickly, because you have no investment in the game. If I bought something for nothing and I don't like it in 5 minutes, I can turn it off, delete it, never think about it again. If I've invested £5 into it, I want my money's worth. I want my hour. I want my 2 hours. I want to get past the part that might not be the most fun. Those games. What if I buy it and there's not immediately loads of people to play with? Am I going to hang around waiting? Maybe not.
Interesting. Yeah. Well, we've gone off all over the place. So what are we looking at as far as, like, are we looking like we're in hopes, where obviously you're kind of just you're in this phase where, okay, we're gonna get the demo out, maybe publisher, maybe not publisher. What's the goal? Are we like, we want this to be successful so that way we can continue to make games, or is this like something that you can do additionally with marketing? Like, where are we looking at as, like, our future?
Yeah, it's a really, really difficult question that I haven't fully come to terms with yet, because I have the golden handcuffs of a nice job. Yeah, I have a good job in London, and it is easy enough for me to still have the energy to pursue a passion project on the side of a game. My game would have to do phenomenally for me to give up my job and give up that security in my life to pursue game dev full time. So I'd like to say I could make a game that could sustain and eclipse my current lifestyle from my job. But that would have to be a very good game. And this is my first title. So realistically, I want to make a bit of money, not a lot, just a bit, maybe enough for a nice holiday. Maybe enough for 2 nice holidays if I'm really lucky. Maybe enough for a new kitchen, or even a new chair in the kitchen if nothing goes well. I have no financial dependence upon my success, which gives me the luxury of taking my time and making something I'm proud of. But also, I'm not as driven as I might be if that was my intent. So I'd like to make a success, and I think that I could. And I think if I can make a great success about it, I would like to do it full time. But like I said, I have the golden handcuffs of a good career would make that difficult to achieve.
How do you manage what your goal is as far as with the game though? And then like making sure like, cause it can very much end up into a building it forever type of situation. And so when do you know it's ready? When do you know it's done? When like without any sort of expectation at the end of it or any sort of goal at the end, more or less, and it's still being more or less in the hobby field, when do you know that you can say, I'm good, we can move on?
That's a question that I really wish I had an answer to, because I don't. I am always going to want to have a perfect product. I'm never going to have a perfect product.
I don't think a perfect product exists, to be honest with you.
But I am expecting to show my game to the small community that I've built up around it, and for them to either say, this is great, or for them to say, this sucks. Why have you made this? And that will be my answer. If they say this is great, it might come out in a year. If they say this sucks, it might never come out. You know, I don't know yet, and I've been so stupid in not showing it to other people for so long that now I'm so heavily invested in something that might be worthless. I don't think it is. Like I said, getting caught up in my own playtesting for a couple of hours as somebody who hasn't played that many games for that long, it was a good indicator. But yeah, I think it's a really hard question to answer when you know and it's finished, because it will never be finished. There's always more content you could add. Hopefully that's where a publisher would be able to tie you down.
Yeah. Well, because they'll give you a deadline. They'll say, now it has to be done by this time, whether it's perfect or what you believe to be perfect or not.
Yeah. And that's true. That's an uncomfortable thing to come to terms with, because we all want more time. We all want to make it perfect.
Yeah. That's one of the things I struggle with a lot, which is the goal. Like, what's the goal? Like, what the goal is? Is it to get it out and then give it to the community to iterate and change and evolve, or is it do you keep it in kind of a locked state to continue to fix, build, make it perfect, make it that perfect version of it? And like you just brought up, like for instance, the playtest that we had, and we got a ton of feedback, thank God, which was one of the other goals on why I started this show and why I was inviting developers into this. I had a lot of motivations for this show. But one of the issues we had early on, which is we had no one to play the game back in December when we tried to do our first set of playtests. We had nobody play the game. Not only nobody play the game, but we had no feedback. And so we're just like, okay, so is this even, in your words, is this game shit or is it good? I don't know. And then we finally got that feedback, and overwhelmingly, I loved it, because it was like the fact that I feel like people felt okay enough to actually provide a lot of feedback meant that there was something there that they wanted to like, or they wanted more of.
They wanted to see the perfect version of it.
Yeah. And so it was good to get that type of information, because I'm like, okay, so if they didn't give us any information or any sort of feedback, I'd be like, they're not interested at all. Like, I just feel like that's what I would have felt like, they just don't even care at all. But the fact that even people were willing to give us some information or feedback, or how their experience was, I felt like that means they wanted more of something. There was something lacking that they wanted.
You got me excited to do my own playtest now.
Yeah, it was. And it was like, what's interesting is there were some people that went pretty. I mean, I put it up in the Discord because I thought it might be interesting for other devs in the group to see the feedback we got, to see in real form, raw. And uh, some people were pretty brutal. And then I even spoke to some privately, and they were even more brutal. But I don't know. I'm not I'm not a very offended person anyway. So I loved it personally because I was like, okay, cool. This is a good jumping off point where we can say, oh, let's fix this, this, and this, and this. And actually, we have a playtest at the end of the month that we're planning, and where we addressed a lot of things. There's actually a big internal feud between the devs on the next direction after the playtest. But we'll see where that goes.
Yeah, I think even having my wife play it, I have never been more embarrassed than showing my wife my trailer. Not because I wasn't proud of it. I was so proud of it. But because I was worried that she'd spot something wrong in it. Not because that's the kind of person she is, but that's because I expect perfection from myself. I was so uncomfortable. I was that hurdle and I showed it to my friends. I've probably got about 10, 8 real close friends. And I showed them, and I got such overwhelming positivity and not. And I don't know if it's because they're good friends or because the trailer was good and the game looked interesting. But yeah, it was so motivating. And I've now, that got me over the hurdle of being scared of talking about the game. Now I've got to get over the hurdle of being scared to let people play my game.
Yeah.
And I think that's also the downside of being a solo dev.
I think it was exciting, the fact that I actually got people that I didn't know that had no affiliation with me other than me inviting them into the server. But other than that, they don't know who I am. They don't know the game necessarily that I've been making. So getting random people to essentially play the game was very exciting, but also a little scary too, I guess, in a way. But it was more exciting than scary because I finally was able to get that feedback that what are we doing right and what are we doing wrong? Because without that, if we were to just continue developing and then a demo or put out the game, then we would have gotten that feedback on the first impression to the broader community and probably never tried the game again. They would probably never give you another shot. They'd be like, this is awful. What was there was a AAA game that kind of did that sort of thing where they like basically just put the game out and everyone hated it so much that it basically killed the game. And they didn't even get a chance to iterate on it.
I think that's the problem I have now is because it's a roguelike and you play through a run, when I test it, I just play a full run. It's quite, it's not an insignificant amount of time. And every time I do it, I spot something wrong. I spot a bug, the graphical thing I want to change. Oh, this enemy is overtuned. And I go out and I change it and I start again. And I don't feel like I'm going to be comfortable to show the game to people until I've gotten through a full run and not spotted anything wrong with it. But I don't think that's ever going to happen. So, so I'm getting to the point where I just want to crush all the bugs and then put it out. Because I just don't want any game-breaking bugs. But like I said, I'm new to this. This is my first ever game. I don't know what state something has to be in to show it publicly. I don't know how many bugs is acceptable in a beta test. I don't know any of that kind of stuff. So I'm really trying to get it overly perfect, which probably is the reason it's going to take an extra 6 months.
Well, I'm interested to try it out for sure. I like tactical adventures for sure. Do you ever play XCOM?
Yeah. It's kind of a similar vibe actually. It's I've been trying to work out how to blend games to explain it, and I've said kind of Slay the Spire plus. Do you ever play Divinity, the original sin?
A little,
the kind of precursor to Baldur's Gate. That's kind of where I'm going. That's what I've got in mind.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, those are fun. I mean, Baldur's Gate did phenomenal. Did really, really well. So there's definitely a market there for it.
Yeah, if I were to restart the game now, that's the kind of combat I would have built. I wasn't confident enough to build it from the off, but that kind of tactical, gridless, open world combat, I think that's what I'd have built.
Yeah. Well, right on, man. I think unless there was anything specific you wanted to talk about, I think we kind of hit all the points, or in all the high points at least.
No, that's good. Yeah. I appreciate you having me.
Yeah, yeah. So here's what we'll do. Let's set it up to do a little bit of an outro, get everyone all the details, all the information, where to find you, where to find your game, what you want them to do with your game, or to wish list, etc. But yeah, just give them a little bit of an outro of anybody watching on what you want them to do.
Yeah, I suppose. So my game is Tales for the Long Nights. It is not available on Steam yet. There's not a demo available on Steam yet, but if you're very patient, you can go and wishlist it. Yeah, like I said, I struggle to tell people to go and check out my game, but I think that when's this coming out?
Oh man,
October-ish.
August or something like that. It's a little ways off. Sorry.
Yeah. Then there may be a demo available at that point in time, I'd like to think. Oh yeah, just check it out on Steam. If you like it, wishlist it. If you don't like it, don't tell me.
Oh man, don't tell him you don't like it, but do tell him about the bugs.
Yeah, do tell me about all of the bugs.
There
will be no bugs at launch. Is a promise I'm not sure any dev can make, but I'm making it here.
There you go. Wow, as a quite the exclamation point on there.
Yeah.
Oh man. Well, right on, man. This has been a fun episode. Thank you. Let me pick your marketing brain for sure. That's really what it boiled down to. I was like sitting here like writing notes. I was like, okay, no, I'm just kidding. I think that's one of the things with indie devs. I feel like we're all kind of like in the same boat. And marketing for an indie game is such a moving target, and it's unlike anything else. Like if you're trying to sell a product, it feels more mechanical. You can figure out your target demographic, your market. You can kind of figure out the exact things that you want to say in your piece to get them to get into the free or whatever you're trying to make them do. So it's like, unless it's a brand awareness campaign, I mean, marketing can be very mechanical in other avenues, but in gaming, I don't know, it feels so elusive and so ethereal. Like it's kind of confusing, like what people want to see.
I think that what I'm focusing on now is making something beautiful and consumable at first sight.
Yeah.
If it's not consumable at first sight, people won't look at it, people won't care. And so that's what I'm doing. You see a lot of people develop features for their games that are just eye candy for social media. And I think that's probably what we all need to do a bit more of.
Good point. I like that. Well, right on, man. This has been fun.
Yeah,
Thank you for being here.
I appreciate you having me.
Absolutely.